Hi Dad, it's me, Savannah. I am here to give some reviews on 60 romance books, old school romance books that I bought off of Facebook Marketplace. Today I am going to be doing the review on Tempt with Kisses by Margaret Moore, and I'm excited to dive in. Okay, today I am doing my very first review of one of the 60 old school romance books that I purchased off of Facebook Marketplace. Today we are doing Tempt Me with Kisses by Margaret Moore. This was the first one that I read. This is the whole reason why I bought all of them, is just because I loved the cover and I was like, I have to just go and buy them all. So this was the very first one that I read. I read it in a day and a half, maybe 2 days, closer to a day and a half. It is 375 pages, so I kind of flew through it. So let's just jump into my ratings. So I am going to rate everything a little bit different. The first thing I'm going to do is give you my spice rating. Here's kind of the layout of how it goes. No peppers means that there was no spice whatsoever, no spicy scenes. It was either fade to black or not even a reference to it at all. 1 pepper means that there was 1 or 2 spicy scenes, but it wasn't a big feature. It was in the book, but it wasn't a big feature. 2 means that there's spice only after proper build-up. So it's part of the book and the relationship builds and then they have their moment together. 3 means that there is spice within the first 100 pages of the book, meaning that a large chunk of the book featured some spicy scenes. 4 spice means that it was pretty much the only plot line. There might have been some other subplots, but like heavily featured those pretty in-depth scenes. And then 5 is that there are going to be scenes that make you uncomfortable. So that's kind of the general ratings for you. I would say for this one, I would give it a 3, which means that there was spice within the first 100 pages. There was more than 1, and I felt like there wasn't enough just like build up to get to that point. It was implemented pretty quickly. Let me see when it was added on. Okay, so I lied to you. It didn't happen within the first 100 pages. It was 127 pages. So still pretty early in the book. Pretty much the first part of the book was all talking about leading up to that spice scene. That would be the spice rating. I would give it a 3 out of 5. Next is the star rating. This is kind of how I am going to be giving my general rating. So no stars means that I did not finish the book. 1 star means that I remember the main characters. I am known to forget pretty much everything after I read it. I love the books, I'm immersed in them, but a lot of them don't really stick with me super long. So if I'm remembering the main characters, that means they at least get 1 star. 2 stars is that I remember the plot or the subplot. If the main plot is just romance, then I remember like whatever the sub little plot is. 3 stars is that I actually care about the characters, that I connected with them in some type of way, or I cared about them. 4 means that something in the book touched my little heart in a big or small way, but there was something in it that really resonated with me. And then the 5 stars means that this book will never leave me. I will keep it. I will remember it forever. I will keep it with me. And then I also am going to give out bonus stars. These ones are kind of unique on how I'm going to be handing them out. So the first is I'll subtract half if I skimmed a large chunk of the book, which I tend to do if the books are boring, but I still want to finish them. I want to know what happens to the characters. I will just skim the last little bit of the pages. I'll skim certain parts. If I do any of that in the book, I subtract half a star. If I don't remember any of the side characters' names, I'm subtracting half a star. If I can't pronounce the main characters' names, which surprisingly, was brought on by this book. If I can't pronounce their names, or if I can't pronounce main plot devices names, like some of the fantasy romances that I read or fantasy books, if I can't pronounce a word in there that is in there a ton, I hate it. It is my biggest pet peeve. If it's close enough, if it's a unique name, but I can very easily pronounce it, it's not a big deal, but it's just hard for me to connect with people or characters if I can't say their names. And then the last one is I will subtract a full star if there is a dying dad in the plot, because I don't really want to read a book like that, and it's a little sensitive for me, so I'm not really interested in reading those kinds of books. Now for where I will give positive stars. The first is that if I stayed up late to read the book, like if I'm so enthralled by the book, I need to stay up later than I should be to read it, giving it a plus half a star. If I giggle during the book, so either something's funny or if I'm like, oh my gosh, it's so cute, and I have a little giggle, then that's plus half a star. If I told my husband about the book, if I'm so excited about it and I had to go talk to him, plus half a star. If there is some sort of cheesy trope, for example, if there is an inn and there's only one bed, or if it's a marriage of convenience, or if they are enemies to lovers, tropes are so easy to hit. I love tropes. Plus half star if it's in any of the book. And then finally, it is going to be a plus 1 whole star if there is a corgi in the book. Molly, come here. Come here. Yep, you don't need to be in this. This is Molly. She's my corgi. So if there's a corgi in the book, I'm giving it an extra star. Thank you, Molly. Thank you. Thank you. You can stay if you want, but you don't have to. Thank you. Oh, thank you. Yes, thank you, girl. For Tempt Me with Kisses, my star rating was 2 stars. I did skim the back half of the book because the plot was just not very interesting. I just couldn't really connect with the characters as much, so I did skim a large chunk of it, read the big plot thing that happened in the end, and then kind of lost interest after that, so I kind of skipped to the end. The main characters' names. This was the whole reason that I added that to my minus star ratings, is because the main character's name is Caradoc, I don't really know. The whole time, I just could not find it in me to relate to someone with a name. I just didn't like it. Not only that, but then one of the other side characters' names was Gifford with weird spelling, and his name of the place that they stayed or they lived was he's a lord of something, and that whole name, I truly am not even gonna try to pronounce it. This is the name Lanstefan Far, and then Caradoc is his name. Daffod. It was so distracting that I could not get around it because it happened so much. 1 or 2 of those characters is fine, but I just did not love it. It was so frustrating, so annoying to me. I had to subtract. I did stay up late to read it. I think the first night that I had it, I stayed up late to read or finish it. And then there was obviously a cheesy trope. Overall, that means that my plus and minuses cancel each other out, so it is a 2-star rating. Short synopsis of this book. The main character, Fiona, shows up at Caradoc's house, who is a lord. He is in a bunch of debt. She shows up at his house. She is a merchant's daughter and basically solicits herself to be his wife because she has a high dowry and she knows that he could benefit from it. And he agrees, and it kind of moves forward from there. It was a good premise. I like the idea of it. I think it's kind of a cheeky way to think of the marriage of convenience, that she propositions it and that has to convince him. I really did like it. But there are just some big plot points that I wasn't that big of a fan of. So moving forward, if you're not interested in hearing spoilers, this is kind of the end of the normal review. Past this will be all spoilers. What happens is Fiona had originally been engaged to another man named Lane or Ian. It's like Ian. And they had some spicy time together before marriage because he wanted to get her money or her dowry and lock it down. And so he thought this was going to be how I did it. Didn't ever love her, had convinced her to love him. And so she very quickly realizes that that was his intent. So that's why she leaves and goes and marries or propositions Caradoc, who she had met a couple of times when she was a child. And throughout the book, there are just weird perspective changes that I didn't like. So it would be, the majority of the chapter would be in one person's perspective, and then it would just shift to someone else's perspective. And it wasn't just like the main character Fiona and Caradoc. It was Fiona and Caradoc, and then one of the friends, Gaffid, it was his perspective. But it was all in third person, so it was like third person limited. And then it also had Ian, it went to his perspective a couple of times, which I wasn't a really big fan of the way that it was input in there. It didn't add any value. It made it more confusing because truly, like, this kind of a situation, it would give like, this whole part would be one person's perspective, and then down here is someone else's perspective. And it just made it really distracting to read. And the main conflict in the book truly was that Fiona and Caradoc didn't really get along. But it wasn't even that they didn't get along, because they still had lots of time together. So it wasn't even that they didn't get along. It was just that there was miscommunication. They wouldn't talk to each other about how they were feeling. And there was like a lot of family conflict that they didn't get along. The sister, I believe her name's Caroline. See, I do not remember. I'm pretty sure it's Caroline. The sister of Caradoc, she doesn't really like her. There's a maid or a housekeeper whose name is Ganor, and she doesn't like Fiona because she has red hair. And just the plot devices weren't well used. I never really believed in their relationship building together. I really only saw a little bit of communication. That's why within the last 100 pages, when the main conflict, basically what happens, again, spoiler, what happens is that Ian shows up and basically tells everybody that she pretended to be a virgin. She pretended to do all this so that she could get married when really she was engaged to him. And then Caradoc has to fight him, and Ian had done some bad things, and Ganor, which was like the evil housekeeper who hated Fiona, he had hurt her permanently. And then that was a whole drama, but then they fought and it was over within maybe 4 or 5 pages. So the whole build up the whole time, there was no payoff, and then there was still like 40 pages left after that big fight. That's where I skimmed a bunch of it. Just skimmed to where he showed back up, where it was all revealed, and them getting over it. I just could not really connect with it. That is my short little review of Tempt Me with Kisses by Margaret Moore. Again, this cover, they're so good. They're so good. How can you not? I know people used to buy and still do buy discreet covers, but like, this is so fun. It's so fun. So stick with me as I am going to go through and read all of these. There is 60 of them, so I'm sure it's going to take me a while. I'm going to go through and read all of these really great. Like, look at this cover here. Look at this one. Like, they're so fun. I hope you come watch my next video. For short versions, you can go on my TikTok, and this will be the long version. I'm going to get better over time at giving you the details. Thank you so much. Can't wait to talk to you again. Bye.